Can you please first start by saying why you decided to write this fatwa, given the fact that we already have two fatwas in the UK, one by Dr. Zaki Badawi in 1995 and one by the European Council for Fatwa and Research in 2000. So what was the need for another fatwa?
The 1995 fatwa by the Muslim Law Council, that did not really address any of the concerns. It gave an opinion of permissibility, and it focused mainly on brainstem death, and that being a valid interpretation of death. The 2000 fatwa by the European Council for Fatwa and Research was simply a ratification of a previous decree and resolution of the International Islamic Fiqh Academy based in Jeddah. And it was just also the Islamic Fiqh Academy based in Mecca. So it's just a ratification of that. Again, there was no discussion. For some people, the 1995 fatwa, the 2000 fatwa, they serve as a reference point. But majority of the people, myself included, maybe not refer to them fatwas for guidance. And so there was something that I needed clarity for myself. Secondly, certain organizations were also, Muslim organizations were also asking for clarity and a position of the scholars from the Indian subcontinent whom they had their affiliations with. And given the soon to be implemented law in spring of 2020 on deemed consent, this was kind of a heightened sort of attention and focus on organ donation. And so all of these came together where I decided that actually, you know what, the time has come for me to actually pen something and put something down. In 22 years, I've never given an opinion on organ donation. I've never written a fatwa on organ donation, despite my involvement with organ donation. And so now I felt there was a time that I needed clarity now before the law arrived.
Why did you feel that you needed to write another fatwa? Is it because of issue of representation, that it didn't represent the community, or is it because information provided in the fatwa did not whet your appetite and it wasn't deep enough? Can you just basically go into the nitty-gritty of that a bit?
When you ask the average person, even the average scholar, imam, they will not refer to, may not even know the existence of that fatwa. So for me, it was a case of there are certain issues that I needed to be, clarified, and this fatwa didn't offer any clarity on them. So I needed to do my own investigation really and come to my own conclusion.
So you keep referring to that the fatwa didn't answer some of your questions. Can you be a bit more particular what those questions were? The
1995 fatwa made reference to sort of personal sovereignty, and that we are, and for me, some of the references that they made, some of the issues that they tackled were problematic. It was not something I agreed with, and a lot of it was omitted. So, for example, they did not discuss human dignity and whether human dignity is, compromised in the retrieval of organs. They did not address certain prophetic sayings which would indicate that the use of human body organs is not permissible. For that particular fatwa, it was a case of, well, organ donation is permissible. Is it? But can from brainstem dead patients, can we take organs? That's what really the fatwa was focused on. For me, the question first was, is organ donation permissible per se? And then a second question of, at what stage can the organ be retrieved?
Can you please tell us how you went about doing research for the fatwa? What type of sources did you use?
Again, I read extensively. I read all the 480 odd pages of the deliberations of this International Islamic Fiqh Academy, many other books as well, to try to glean an understanding of what arguments people are making. I had to weigh up the arguments of those that were for and against, and see whether the argument had any merit. So I had to go back to the the law manuals of all the 4 schools. For me, this was not something simply a Hanafi issue or a Maliki or a Shafi or a school of or one particular school issue, because this transcends, I think, all the schools. So and being from the Sunni tradition, I try to access all the legal manuals available from the 4 different Sunni schools of jurisprudence, and so I refer to them to try to get an understanding of the principles that scholars of the past, traditional scholars, were applying and utilize them to come to a conclusion now.
Having reviewed your fatwa, I also understand that you did not only confine yourself to Islamic sources, you also went and sourced academic medical sources. Can you say a bit about that?
Yes. To have a proper concept of that issue, I had to read academic papers on organ donation, on what is death, on brainstem death, on different types of death, on those, on all the controversy that surrounds this issue within Western sort of academic thought. Right. This was something that was actually missing from the deliberations of the International Islamic Fiqh Academy. They were relying on information provided to them from doctors. But what I wanted to do was to understand the issue for myself. And so I read a lot of papers by Western academics and Western bioethicists, and books as well. I have a pile of books at home as well, and try to get an understanding of this area. And I think to a certain degree I succeeded in that, which helped inform my decision.
What is your view of receiving an organ, irrelevant of the source of that organ?
Receiving an organ is permissible, okay? A blanket permission, irrespective of where the organ has come from.
Okay. What is your opinion on donating an organ when the donor is a living person?
My opinion on living donation is that it is permissible, provided there is little or negligible harm to the donor. I'll give you an example. For example, a kidney donation. It is not without cost to the donor, but the cost to the donor is negligible. Sometimes you hear this, that we can survive on 1 kidney. Whether you believe in evolution or whether you believe in that God created us, the question, why do we have 2 kidneys then? So for me, it's not without purpose. So when 1 kidney goes, there is some cost. But is that cost, is it bearable as long as the person is healthy?
But there will always be a risk analysis, right?
There will always be a risk analysis. There will always be a risk analysis. So provided that the harm to the donor is small or negligible, it is permitted.
So what is your view on circulatory death? Can you explain what circulatory death first is, and then your fatwa on that?
Circulatory death is when the circulation of the blood and airflow has stopped. So basically the heart has stopped and the lungs have stopped. Now my position on that is when the lungs and the heart have stopped and they reach a point that it is irreversible, that you cannot restart the heart again, you cannot restart the lungs again. After that, the procurement of the organs is permissible. That is sufficient indication to tell us that and the Islamic understanding of death is that the soul has departed the body.